Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Protoss versus Zerg, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the Abyssal Reef. It's a beautiful place. You can take the whole family, make sure you bring your swimming gear and all that, because this place looks gorgeous. Now spawning right here in the top left hand corner, we have a Zerg infestation who goes by the name of Rogue. His opponent, a fan of the Golden Armada with the blue Protoss probes. We're looking at Classic's main Nexus. I haven't actually seen Classic play in a little bit. I've been casting a lot of Rogue games because Rogue is playing in practically everything. Dark not playing in as much anymore, but both Shin and Rogue have kind of taken over the mantle. They're participating in practically every tournament under the sun. I haven't really seen as many of Classic's games though. So it's going to be fun to get a little update as far as this matchup for him goes. In general, Protoss seems to have a much better time in the current patch than they did in the previous one. So, yeah, we'll see. Rogue has been very impressive, though. I'm really liking what Rogue is doing across the board, especially in the Zerg versus Terran matchup. His Zerg versus Protoss is looking a little bit less... It's got a little bit less oomph, but maybe he's still just finding his way, right? In my mind, it hasn't really been that long since he completed his military service, although at this point it's probably been like a half year. Usually, though, whenever we see the Koreans take an extended break, so in case of their military service, usually it's like 2 years, year and a half minimum. Usually it takes them a good long while to get back to their previous skill level, if they ever get there in the first place. And I feel like Rogue, he came back and he just immediately was strong. He just immediately knew what to do, especially in Zerg versus Terran. So maybe he like practiced on the weekends or something. I'm not exactly sure. Anyways, this matchup, he's not been quite as dominant in, but I'm still liking what he does across the board. Rogue is very much so, though, a very fun late-game player. He does a lot of Nidus play, a lot of Overlord drops, and just a lot of shenanigans in general. So we'll have to see. I'm bringing up late game because this is Abyssal Reef, and all of the 3 maps that they brought back, so Neon Violet Square, King's Cove, and then Abyssal Reef, they're all old maps that we used to have in StarCraft 2 back in the day. They're absolutely humongous compared to quote-unquote modern StarCraft 2 maps, right? The more up-to-date designs, the ones that we are mostly used to over the last couple of years. Maps actually, over time when we first got StarCraft 2, like when StarCraft 2 first released, the maps were absolutely tiny and they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I kind of feel like this was the peak of large maps. Maybe it got a little bit larger still after this point, but maps ever since then have been shrinking down again to the point that we, well, get right now, where maps are generally a little bit smaller. Obviously, when you have a very large map, like for example Abyssal Reef, it just takes a long time to get across the map, right? Like it just takes a long time. Any sort of push you want to go for is gonna hit like 5 to 10 seconds later just because of travel distance. Classic opening up Phoenix first? Really? So we see Phoenix builds in Protoss versus Terran. In this matchup, though, it's pretty much always Oracle. Every once in a while, it's Void Ray into Oracle. The thing about Phoenix is that you can rarely make one Phoenix. Maybe he's just doing this in place of a Void Ray. Ah, yeah, that's what he's doing. Okay, I was thinking this was going to be Mass Phoenix for a little bit, but that's not what it is. Instead of using a single Void Ray to kill Overlords, he's gonna just make a single Phoenix here to do the same job. Problem, of course, with the Phoenix is that, well, yeah, you can kill Overlords, but you're not going to be able to really use this as a defensive tool to keep your third base alive. Alternatively, you can play Mass Phoenixes. Not very popular. Ooh. Ooh, that was actually very slippery there. I think he probably could have been... Yeah, that was actually not very clean. It's still fine, but the third Nexus is already quite late. Normal time for the third Nexus is about 20 seconds ago. And even though this doesn't really matter that much, I'm not loving this start. I wonder if he should have gone Void Ray first instead. If he can get a second OV, I would like this quite a bit better. Well, there it is. Hey, turn around! Turn around. Every now and then you gotta kill second. He didn't see. He didn't notice. Well, that's awkward. Imagine being this Overlord over here. Somehow you live. Looks like he's retired. He gets to enjoy this little, well, Abyssal Reef area, I guess. That's nice. All right, we have 2 Oracles at this point. They're going to be hanging out on the left side of the map. Queen's not quite in position, but there is a Spore Crawler. Oh. What's up, Shark Bro? Shark Bro always wants his time to shine. Nice little bit of micro here. I actually really enjoy the addition of the Phoenix there, though. So he's bringing one Phoenix. Ooh, this is not fully walled in. A depth shade around the natural. The Phoenix to lift up the Queen to let the Oracles deal some more damage. I don't hate it. So far, a good number of drones have gone down. A depth shade into the main base. Now, one thing actually, in addition to the Phoenix usage that we've seen so far, is that any sort of follow-up right now that features Mutalisks is going to be a hell of a lot worse, right? I don't really think Rogue is going to think about Phoenixes. Unless Rogue believes that his opponent believes that he is not going to be thinking about Mutas anymore, then potentially he could still go Mutas. That would be a Rogue move and a half. But generally speaking, when you go up against somebody who goes Phoenix, even if it's just a single one, Mutas are just not a great option anymore. This is a good bit of damage though. 10 workers in total, especially on a map like this. Very solid start here for Classic, and it certainly makes up for the slightly delayed third base. Blink coming up. +1 ground weapons also researching at this point in time. Can't complain about this. Zerg in the meantime is trying to catch up as far as the worker count goes. So we have +1 missile now researching together with the ranged upgrade for the Hydralisk. Looks like it's going to be a Roach Hydra or Ling Hydra here for Rogue. Both are viable options. Both of them are relatively slow though, so neither of them really leads to a timing attack anymore in 2024. I mean, technically you could go for an attack, but especially since Rogue lost all of those drones earlier, I think he's mostly just using this as a stepping stone to go up towards the Infestation Pit, to go up towards a Hive, build a Lurker den, get the Lurkers going, and use it to, try and transition towards the late game. Classic will be more than happy to go ahead and do exactly the same thing though. He's gonna go and build a 4th Nexus. He's going into a Templar Archives, which is the first step in the direction of the late game, and he's already going into the Charge Research 2. Relatively cheap, but very handy the longer the game goes. Psystorm immediately fires up. Protoss seems to struggle in general right now, not so much in the late game, not so much in the mid game, but in that transitionary moment where Protoss goes from the mid game to the late game. When they throw down the Fleet Beacon, they go into the +1 Flyer upgrade, they go into the additional Stargates, but they don't actually have the value out of all of that, well, resource expenditure done yet. So it takes a while for that really to be useful. Fleet Beacon comes up, there's the Stargate. This is a moment where technically Classic is vulnerable. It's just that the Hive is by no means early. And considering there is a Lurker den on the back of this, and considering Rogue did take 10 workers of damage earlier, I think he's been sufficiently slowed down. So I think Rogue is going to be able to get away with this. It's going to get scouted right now, but I don't think... Or I think Classic rather is going to be able to get away with this. I don't think Rogue is going to be able to do anything about it. Spire starts up. And it looks like we are going Lurker Corruptor. And we are indeed setting ourselves up for a late game. Okay. Hope you got yourself a drink. I've got myself a very large bottle, a water bottle here with 2 liters or so we're good. Now, I've mentioned this before, but I think it's useful to repeat. I haven't really seen Zerg win late game. It sounds a bit sad, but out of all the games I've been casting of this matchup lately, I have not really seen Zerg win a proper late game. When the game is sort of even, maybe a slight advantage for Protoss, they seem to be able to run away with the victory. It's gonna take like another 10-15 minutes or so, usually. But Zergs do seem to be struggling a lot. In a very similar sense to the way that Protoss used to be struggling a lot in the late game, in the previous, well, versions of StarCraft 2, so let's see. General rule of thumb, if you're a ladder hero, or if you're a Zerg player, I guess at the professional level even, is usually to try and prevent Protoss from ever getting to this point. So that's why Classic is in a good spot here, because he killed those 10 drones. He really forced the Zerg to lose a little bit of steam, although this is still a moment though where Protoss is vulnerable. He hasn't yet really gotten the value. Stargate's coming up, we have a bunch of, well, resources spent, There are a bunch of Tempests out, and I think these Tempests are actually gonna push the Zerg player back. There's just nothing here that really is gonna kill Tempest. Like, technically, yeah, the Hydras can reach it, but he was hoping to get a 5th Tempest out. 5th Tempest can allow you to one-shot practically everything, but yep, this is perfect here for Classic. Extremely dominant position right now here for the Protoss. +1 air weapons is going to finish up. He did not forget about that. And now that the Tempests are out, I like this a lot here from Classic. He is going to start to transition up towards the Carrier. For Carriers, you really want to get +2, and he fires that up immediately. Smooth sailing here for Protoss. Now, Rogue did go for a quick Spire. +1 air weapons has also been researching for a little while already. He's got good economy. 87 drones is not bad. But I'm very curious to see how Rogue is going to proceed in this game now. Because what do? I think, yeah, you need to somehow, some way, eat the Protoss up from the inside out. Attacking their main army is not going to work. You need to keep that economy at least reasonably small. This Zergling squad over here is a distraction to potentially allow this mass overall drop to hit in the main base. And these are Zerglings that will hit hard. They have Adrenal Glands. That's about a 40% attack speed improvement. Getting any sort of upgrade cancelled here is really going to slow things down. In the meantime, there is a lurker push at the front too. But Protoss has been split up sufficiently here to deal with all of it. Rogue decides to get on out of there. Ooh, Corruptors in the meantime also swoop towards the front, noticing the split up Protoss army. Lurkers coming back around, realizing that there's not enough at the front. Rest of the Protoss ball is going to be running on over in this direction, and I think Classic is fine. That was dangerous. That was scary, but he's fine. Second Spire coming up. Okay. Carrier fleet. It's slowly growing. +2 is the big upgrade. +2 is when all of those interceptors suddenly start trading so much better. Especially against unupgraded armor units. So I'm assuming that's why Rogue is going double Spire here to try and counteract exactly that. This time around, the Overlord drops, though, are being reloaded. It's not going to be Zerglings. It's going to be a more committed version of it. We'll see a transition towards Lurkers here, together with some Links. This is costly. A lot of money here for Rogue, flying in the sky. Classic has not actually taken control of this bit of space at all. I think he should really park, like maybe the Oracle, or if he still had the Phoenix from the early game, like something needs to be put on over in that spot. Because he cannot really be caught off guard like this repeatedly. Oh. Well, Rogue believes that he has actually been spotted already. Decides to just drop off a single lurker, but... wonder if he could have done a little bit more there. Probably not. Vipers right now on the back of this too. Lurker is going to get killed. It's going to float to the surface of the Abyssal Reef. See you later. Okay. So Classic has got everything that he needed. Yeah. He's got the cake and he can eat it too. Cheeky little Nidus Worm though. This bit of space here at the bottom has not been controlled well. At all. Nidus Worm is coming up. Hello. Wake up, Classic. It's right there within vision. Classic. Bro, did Classic just go AFK? Finally, he whoops in motion, but that was very slow reaction. Okay. Corruptors, Corruptors, Corruptors. Beautiful move right here by Rogue. He spotted an opportunity, flies in right now. There's no Archons anywhere. No Void Rays or anything along those lines either. Parasitic Bombs are dealing a lot of damage. No split right there from Classic. In the meantime, the Lurkers finish off this structure. Mothership was too far away to really make use of the cloaking field there. Classic sleeping on the job, and that's all that Rogue really needs. I like, by the way, how the Nidus Worm didn't actually need to exist. The Nidus Worm in the main base was completely empty. It was mostly just as a distraction, but Classic didn't pay attention to it at all. Zergling run by right now runs in. And you gotta be respecting Rogue here. I feel like Classic decided to take a little nap. After maxing out, he's like, yo, perfect. I am just gonna chill now. And then I'm gonna chill some more, and I'm gonna chill some more. He still does not have a very good control right here. He needs to get a grip of this section of the map. There's really no reason why this Overseer is sieged up over here, just repeatedly putting up worms. Classic. Okay, finally he sees it. Decides to get rid of it. But this has been a little bit sloppy. Not the end of the world, though. But he's lost a lot more there than he really needed to. Okay. We do have a second cybernetics core. 4 Stargates inside of the main base. Zerglings and Hydras running over in this direction. There's a bunch of Lings burrowed as well in that mineral line. Spore crawler count is going up. We already have 10 of them. We will get more. Oh, no. Rogue, stop it! Cancel that! Rogue! You were doing so well! I don't think I've seen a single game lately where the Ultralisk is actually a good choice. He's gonna make the Cavern at the very least, and he has started up Carapace research. Maybe it's for like the ultimate late game, you know, if he really needs it. Once more, Rogue is fighting. Dude, didn't I recently cast a series between Rogue and, I want to say, MaxPex? Where we had a very similar scenario where he just repeatedly did a drop from the exact same angle and Protoss just didn't do anything. Like, you just sat there. Again, Lurker drop goes in. I love the Nidus Worm as an escape. A little bit messy. Hydra's over here at the front, once more being a distraction. Protoss is forced to split up. This is gonna get countered though, and this time around Rogue does actually get punished for it, although one Stargate goes down right there at the tail end of that engagement. Rogue spreading the creep all over the map. This tumor that started in the natural expansion has almost made its way towards the opponent's 5th. Can we please control this bit of space, Classic? Like, just park 1 unit. Like, anything for vision. Even an observer would be extremely handy. Well, Nidus Worm goes up again. We have a couple of changelings now slipping through the cracks. I don't understand how these guys are still around. I don't think Rogue is supposed to be able to get away with this. I think Rogue should enjoy this while this lasts, because I've got a feeling a lot of Zerg players are gonna not be so lucky over the next couple of weeks. This is relatively new in the grand scheme of things. We haven't really seen mass late game Overlord drops. Not at least in quite a long time. So, yeah, Rogue is enjoying it for now, but I've got a feeling this is a little bit risky. Lurkers decide to run away. Rogue swoops in around the site, snatches a couple of those units, backs up again. Oh, brilliant stuff here by Rogue. Woo! That was hot. He's just tearing the Protoss player apart. You gotta be paying attention. How many Templar are there? There's only 4. I feel like you need at least like 6, maybe even 8. We need more storms, more feedbacks, more of everything. Kind of feels like Classic is just balling up his units and he's not really paying attention to anything more than one screen, whereas Rogue is controlling the entire map, not just the main fight. Couple of units inside of the main base. Rogue is playing the way that Zerg was intended to be played. Extremely swarmy, hitting where the opponent is not. My question mostly is, though, can he fight this army of the Protoss straight up? Because this is a very scary force. Although I say that, it's only 6 carriers now. Classic losing all of those Tempest and carriers with those previous abductions. Extremely painful. He does catch one of those bases from the Zerg, though. And it's not like there's a lot of money here for Rogue. Rogue does not have, thousands of resources just sitting around. I mean, he does have a bit of a bank, but his army is expensive. If you look at the army value in the top left, neither player really has the resources to quickly replenish it, and usually that favors Protoss. That's why Rogue, though, is attacking here, and look at it. It's working. The entire Protoss army decides to go back home. There's a couple Zealots here in the bottom left, but they're not going to be that terrifying. Classic decides to actually fly his entire army home. Also, we don't have a lot of Templar. Only 2 of them remain. I actually believe we have too many Archons. There is a sweet spot of Archons. Okay, he decides to do a recall. I think you want to have maybe 8 Archons or so. 13 is actually too many. It's kind of like playing Mass Ultra. At some point, the Archons will just sort of derp around one another. A new fleet beacon starts up. Stargates are going to start producing a bunch of Void Rays. But at this point, I am not really enjoying Classic's position very much anymore. It's almost like Classic got a little bit lazy after he reached this end phase of the game. Like, he played a phenomenal early game, his mid game looked really strong, and then he just Yeah, built a Skytles army and decided to take a nap. It's a bit weird. I guess mostly in his latter games, in his practice matches, he probably just sort of creates that bulldozer army and then goes through the center of the map and he wins. But the 2 times he's tried it so far in this match, it didn't really work because Rogue keeps backstabbing him. And now he's in a bit of a weird spot. We are 20 minutes in. He's still only on 5 bases. Yes, he's got some money still coming in and he's got a scary army. His plan right now is to effectively stop making probes and just make a banger army. So that's all we're really doing. If Rogue sniffs this out, I think he should just make a million... Yeah, a million spores. Exactly. Maybe Zerg, with 200 supply worth of units, cannot really fight the Protoss army cost efficiently, but if you have a ton of static defense as well, I mean, Classic is gonna run out of money here over the next 5 minutes or so. Maybe the next 10 minutes. He needs another base. New one is coming up right now at the bottom of the map, but Lurkers are already setting their sights on exactly that. We have Brute Lords also added into the mix. Dropper Lords are now apparently retired. And again, Classic is moving us around his army in one big ball. It's just... I don't like it. This gives me very strong Diamond League vibes. Like, no disrespect to anyone in Diamond League. But this is the all-army hotkey, and we're going on a little walk around the map type of approach, man. We have very little elegance here in this Protoss movement. We're just sort of parking our big units and we're just making a large army and we're just trying to max out and stuff, but then we have no game plan. Well, he successfully slowed down the match. I think, though, that's going to favor Rogue. I wonder if Classic should rebuild workers at this point. His original plan of making a large army is evidently not working, and I think 47 probes is just not quite enough. How many spore crawlers are we on right now? 25. Honestly, Rogue could build up to like 50. I think 50 spores, actually very strong. Also, there is only a single immortal in the army. There is an opportunity for Rogue to make a transition after losing his current army to go into Ultras and Corruptors instead. Because Ultras will kill everything that's not immortals on the ground. This upgrade, by the way, is pretty late. Classic finally starts up the +3 air armor. Fungal growth on the high ground. Or from the high ground. Lurkers around the side. Oracle is going to drop down a Revelation. We do get some nice Lurker snipes here. Careful, though. If you accidentally find yourself getting fungled, you're not going to be able to escape. Do we not have the Tempest upgrade? No, we don't have the Tempest Tectonic Destabilizers upgrade, so he does not deal double damage to structures. Fungal. Nice Fungal. Tempest. Sniping one of the Brute Lords at a time. Cloaking Field activated on the Mothership. Slowly but surely, though, Rogue is pushing this army into a corner. I just don't know if there's enough for the Zerg here. More Brute Lords are coming up. We have the Changeling army. We have 12 Overseers, by the way, so not as extreme as what we see in the Zerg versus Terran matchup from Rogue, but I quite like it. Look at it. He's using effectively those Changeling here almost like as a force field to make it difficult for the Archons to actually get into the fight. And even though this looks like a bit of a messy engagement, Rogue seems to be in firm control. He got what he came for. I think it's time for him to back up, although he does get a couple more good fungals here and some nice parasitic bombs. But he wanted to kill the Nexus, and he achieved exactly that. He knows that Classic is going to run dry over the next couple minutes. The only other alternative option is this base right over here, but there's an Overlord together with a Nidus Worm parked right next to it. And that means that Classic is just going to try and retake this expansion right over here. No detection? Okay, we do have an observer. Yeah, it just seems that Classic here is just a little bit clueless as far as what to do with his army goes. He's got a huge army, but every time he moves around the map, he gets stabbed in the back. If he moves out right now, I've got a feeling that this base is gonna get killed once more, but he needs to do something. Rogue has completely bled out his gas bank. Only 57 drones. He's got a lot of minerals. I almost wonder if he should just make more spores. He did actually lose quite a few of them. He's only got 15 remaining. Obviously, when you have a ton of minerals, you can start going for some Zergling counterattacks. Fully upgraded links will actually deal with static defense reasonably well. But again, we have a recall. And that means that this army is not going to be able to continue moving. So at the cost of a bunch of Zerglings, Rogue manages to buy himself some more time once more. I like this from Classic, going for a double expand. Classic's bank actually is still looking pretty healthy compared to Rogue's. Yeah. I'm not sure what Classic's win condition is. I guess that's maybe a better way to describe it. Like, Rogue has decided to try to win the war of attrition, right? Try to suffocate the opponent over time. Now that is not really working out, though, since Classic has just sparked his entire force over here. These bases are likely going to go up. I wonder what Classic's next step is going to be. He's gathering a lot more gas now. He really does need more gas. Okay, we have a little bit of a Brute Lord counterattack and an Ultralisk on the production tab. Maybe one Ultra to try and show the opponent that maybe you should consider making more Immortals. Classic just once more, balling up his entire army to try and deal with a couple of Brutes. Okay, maybe it's a little bit more than a couple, but still. He's leaving these bases so vulnerable. Ugh. Where do we go from here? Oh, he's killed his own Nidus Worm. He's killed his own Nidus Worm to plant down the hatchery in that area. I quite like that. There is one storm. Can we storm? Nice. This Nexus is actually going to get gobbled up really quickly. Fully upgraded Zerglings don't mess around. And that's mostly a positional loss, I suppose, for Classic, who decides to go for another Stargate. Got ourselves the extra armor upgrade coming. I really dislike this passivity here from Classic. It's a viable playstyle, but this is exactly what the Balance Council was trying to avoid with the new patch. Like, they wanted to reduce the amount of passive play. It seems like this is what Classic has decided to go for. Obviously... Oh, hey, what's up, Shark Bro? Shark Bro always wants to make an appearance. Lurker counterattack here after the Zerglings have finished most of the static defense off. A couple Ultras have made their way as well through the worm. They're going to be needed at home, though. Classic, don't tell me you're going to No, he recalls again! Ah! Classic has commitment issues, dude. He just left again. I'm not a fan of this Protoss late game. It is, I don't think it's particularly well played. Maybe that's mean. Can I say such things? Is somebody gonna get upset? I don't think this is particularly well played, but I also think it's just quite boring, really. Because Classic hasn't really done anything. Like, in my mind, like, he couldn't win this game, but in my mind, he's just slowly losing over the course of like 20 minutes. I mean, maybe he's winning, actually. But Rogue has been trying very hard to continuously stab him in the back. This is the second fleet beacon coming up. Or, I mean, it's been here for a little while, but we do have now 10 Ultras. There's only one Immortal. In a straight-up fight, if there are no Immortals in the mix, Archons, look at them derping. Archons are very similar to Ultras in that regard. They're very derpy. And... oh, look at this. He's made a stasis. Oh, he's made a force field. A changeling force field again. If you don't have any Immortals, Ultras are gonna kill everything on the ground. Like, yeah, carriers can kill Ultras eventually, but it takes them about 7 years. It takes a long time. A fully upgraded Ultra, changelings, or changeling interceptors rather, just don't deal a whole lot of damage. Fungal? Big fungal. I don't ever actually mind this. No, Ultras go in. Yes. Careful, though, with those Corruptors right now, but the Corruptors do get a great engagement. This is exactly what I was trying to highlight. Ultras just cleared out everything on the ground. Not enough Immortals whatsoever. And that means the Corruptors just smashed that late game Skytoss. GG. What a game by Rogue. Very well done. He really had to fight for that win. But in my mind, he outplayed his opponent for quite a long while there. Now, his early game was pretty terrible. I didn't really like the way he played his early game. Losing 10 drones to a handful of Adepts and then a couple of Oracles. Maybe the Phoenix build sort of caught him off guard. But a relatively messy beginning there for Rogue. But I think he played out that late game very nicely. Like, in my mind, when I think about Zerg, right, I think about the super swarmy, the infestations, the backstabbing, and then the constant tech transitions. And that's what Rogue is extremely good at. Like, I'm pretty sure whoever wrote the story of StarCraft back in the 90s, right, like whoever invented the name Zerg, that's pretty much exactly what that person pictured. Brilliant stuff right there by Rogue. It's very different from... A lot of Zerg players right now are trying to go for that, like, Brute Lord Infestor-based army, and it's kind of boring. I don't really like that style too much. Rogue just constantly hitting his opponent in the face, left, right, and center. Every time Classic tried to make a move out, he felt like he needed to recall again. Yeah. I also kind of feel like Classic just didn't have a plan, though. He just completely let go of the reins of the game, right? When he had that Oracle mid-game, when he transitioned towards Blink and everything in the earlier stages of the previous match, he had full map control, and then at some point, he planted down a fleet beacon and a couple Stargates, and he's like, yo, perfect. Hands off the steering wheel. We're coasting for the rest of the game. It just seemed a little bit unprepared. There is a very real chance, though, that when Classic does his ladder games, and he puts in the practice hours, that he just sort of wins. It does take a lot of skill from the Zerg player to actually counter that sort of army. But there is a way to deal with it, and yeah, I think Rogue showed us that perfectly. I can imagine Rogue is not really somebody who does a ton of ladder games, because he plays in so many tournaments. I feel like he's probably just participating. And the same for Shin, actually. Shin is another one of the Zerg players you could be practicing against. But Shin is also playing in a ton of cups. So, yeah. Alright, Stargate build here for Classic. Curious to see if he wants to go into a Phoenix opener once more. Phoenix into Oracle was pretty neat. I think maybe a Void Ray first is actually a little bit better, though, if it's just for killing Overlords. Oracle into Oracle into Oracle is also very good. Oracle into Oracle is very good. Really a lot of different flavors. I would like to actually see a little bit more Phoenix builds. Like double Stargate Phoenix used to be super popular back in the day. It's sort of fallen off a little bit in 2024. Maybe already in 2023. But in the past, whenever you would go for a double Phoenix Stargate build, right? Like you would go and basically skip the mid game and go straight to the late game. I wonder if it's going to make a return once more. I'm not exactly sure what the reason is as to why we don't see a lot of Phoenix builds anymore. Maybe Zerg players have just gotten too good at dealing with it. Adept goes around the site. Third hatchery is already building all the way up to the 12 o'clock position on the map. Link speed is just about to finish, though. Probe is heading on over towards the left side, and this is going to be about a 350 third nexus. Yep, 348. 348 means perfect execution. It's a bit of a skill check here for Protoss, obviously. He did go for the second gateway. So this was a very clean early game, although this positioning here was not so good. Second Oracle is now available. Classic needs to start up another pylon somewhere. Okay. Where did he start it? In the natural. Because otherwise he's going to hit a supply block. Lings are going to run in. Nice little backstab right here for Rogue. Who's now going to go into the +1 melee. In the previous game, he went +1 missile first. So this is a little bit of a deviation here. I'm liking this beginning a lot better, though, because Rogue at this point has not lost a single worker yet. Now, I believe in the previous game, he also didn't really start losing drones until right around this time, maybe a little bit earlier. It's absolutely critical here that Rogue plays a bit of a better early game, because there's a lot of follow-up attacks that Classic can go for. Classic obviously decided to just go straight Skytles and straight late game in the previous match, but maybe it's more of his style now to play something a bit more aggressively. When you kill 10 drones, I think you're actually pretty much in the perfect setup to just go and win the game with a follow-up timing attack. Ooh, that's the... Okay. That's terrible. No, this is also bad. I mean, he gets the stasis. That's a little funky. I didn't think he was going to get that. I thought it was a kill. Rogue decided to go double Spore Crawler. That's actually... He did the same thing in the previous game. I didn't really highlight it, but... So it's double Spore Crawler in the main base. He goes 4 spores. How do we feel about 4 Spore Crawlers? I mean, that stasis ward was really nice. But losing an Oracle right there to a Queen is a bit sloppy. This nice little peak in the income for Classic is because of that stasis. But those, well, drones are obviously back up. That's a temporary advantage. So he's going Mass Queen, but he's also going Spores. It's a little curious. Lara's just about to finish up. Are we gonna go Hydra then again? Not the case. No. Are we gonna go Roach Speed in that case? I would imagine Roach Speed is a good option. Yeah, alright. That will indeed be the weapon of choice. Rogue actually really focused on creep spread at this point in the game. He did the same thing in the previous match. So as soon as Blink is done, which is just about to be the case, Classic is gonna start roaming the map. And the further the creep is, the better it's going to be for the Zerg to defend. He also knows the exact timing, though, Rogue that is, as to when the Blink upgrade finishes. Decides to just try and slow this down. Kills a bunch of probes. Honestly, not bad. 5 workers here is actually quite good. Stalkers are now out, though. And they are on the other side of the map. But look, the creep is really good here for the Zerg. And that means that Classic can't really achieve too much here. If you look at the top-level European Protoss players, they're usually quite dedicated as well to denying creep spread in the early game. So a lot of revelations. Oh, really? We're flying Brenda, Karen, and Margaret across the map. Everybody step in. Overlord drop in the meantime, too, on the right side of the map. Yep, here they go. This is Rogue going for a very modern interpretation of the Queen drop. Generally, you don't play it like this. And especially not with a Zergling run by in the meantime, too. Storm is about halfway done, so he's going to be able to hit his opponent before any of those big upgrades are really finished. Rogue Classic is actually now going across the map, which is probably the worst timing. He can't really recall. There's a lot of High Templar just sort of standing around. Zergling drop now inside of the main base. Classic is once again being gobbled up from the inside out. 4th Nexus is not actually the line of attack, though. Queens have shown up. We do get a little bit of a creep tumor drop too, which I quite like. Quite a few probes have gone down so far. Storm is available. That at least is going to keep some of these roaches occupied. Lings in the main base have been cleaned up too. Normally every Zerg attack is headed over to the next base of the Protoss. Rogue completely ignoring the 4th and instead goes for the mineral line and then also the main base. Bit of an overextension, though, as far as the Overlords go. But at least, obviously, he's got Overlord speed, so they're going to be able to go back home. Good crisis management right there by Classic. Actually, very impressive. He lost only, quote-unquote, only 21 workers. It is a lot, of course. But I can imagine that's the first time he ever had to deal with that. Charge is now done. Worker count is still fine for him. This creep spread is actually super annoying. Yeah, it's still available. The Zerg units can still benefit from it. Archon is certainly going to go down. We do have some storms available. Might not be a bad idea. Energy ability has indeed been used. He's just trying to hunt down whatever he can get. Rather than attacking the 4th base, Rogue is just full-on trying to fight the army. Zealots do have charge available right now. 1 Templar trying to throw water balloons right now at some of these roaches. Did not quite work out. Rogue is about to finish up the +2 melee upgrade, actually, which is really good. Same can be said for Classic, though, who's about to finish up ground weapons level 2, but he doesn't have any units. And upgrades are nice and all, but when you don't have army, quite difficult to actually make use of it. An additional 11 probes go down. What an attack by Rogue. Dude, Rogue has got some of the most ridiculous killer instincts in StarCraft 2. I love this for the Zerg. Very cool. It's like, bro, you want to dance? Let's dance! You wanted to bring some Blinky boys into my main base? See how it goes for you. Look at the map. He's still spreading creep. He is still going around, rallying units all the way over. Macro is on point. Look at that. Not even 100 minerals, not 100 gas. Rogue has been powering up again. Yeah, very impressive. Very impressive games right here from the Zerg. I didn't like his early game in game number 1. In game number 2, it was clean. Got an Oracle for free. Immediately decides to punish his opponent for it. You don't play a perfect early game as Protoss? Well, this is what can be waiting for you next. And this is obviously one of the brutal sides of Protoss. If you have a slight hiccup in your early game, you lose an Oracle, maybe your Adepts get nothing done, your third base gets delayed, whatever. Well, sometimes the Zerg follow-up attack is pretty much impossible to hold. Well done, though, by Rogue, who obtains the victory in the series 2-0.